Whereabouts are you from?
Dublin. I did live in England for 4 years though at some point, so maybe that's why the accent's a bit.
Are you any good with Irish songs?
No. Oh. No. No, not particularly. I join in if I'm drunk enough, but if you're asking me to do it now, sober on camera.
In the merry month of May, from me home I started, left the girls in tomb and nearly broken. Had to sleep before the day, kiss me darling mother, drank a pint of beer, made grief and Jesus, more enough to reap the corn leaf, where I was born a cod, stout with thorn to banish goes to gum. Ban you pair of boats, rattled over the bugs, frightened all the dogs, and rocky road to Dublin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Jesus. I think you're more Irish than me, guy.
There's another 5 verses to that, which I have to tell you I'm also fluent in.
Have you spent a lot of time in Ireland or something?
I spent a lot of time singing Irish songs, yeah. I used to are we recorded? Yeah. Okay. It was a complete waste of time. With that.
Well, listen, King Ireland.
No, hold on, no.
Oh, sorry, you're going to...
Yeah, we'll just do Ireland. So I used to have a pub just down the road, and my favourite night was Tuesday night. We had an Irish night.
Go on.
And so for 5 years... all as we did was Irish songs. But I grew up, Paddy that lived in my street, I think.
Right.
And he had an Irish night about 7 nights a week. And we spent a lot of time in that house. So I knew all the Republican songs.
Okay.
I knew all of the cliched songs. Yeah. I had a whole reservoir of... a whole repertoire of Irish songs.
It's a good thing to have. A lot of Irish people around the world would love you for it.
No, I've got to tell you, I love it.
Listen, we better talk about your movie.
No, hold on, I haven't finished.
Go on.
And I just wish, because England, actually, it does segue into this.
Go on.
Because I'm interested in the Loric tradition, you see.
Yes.
And England, at some point, disconnected from its Loric tradition. And Ireland has managed to maintain it. So hence, you can, and Ireland should, at all costs, never lose that link. Right. That's why I find the Irish I've always thought the three cultures, and this is very broad, right?
Yeah.
That I pay attention to the poetic use of words. The Irish, blacks in general, and Cockneys.
Okay.
Because there's a poetic understanding, a creative use in words that hasn't conformed to tradition. And it's infinitely more creative because of it. Now we can segue into Arthur, because Arthur, what I'm interested in is the Loric tradition of the myth of Arthur, because it harks back to that tradition.
Okay, and well, speaking of the myths, what is it about? You obviously like history, because if you like this, and you seem to know a lot about Irish songs and history and stuff. So is that why maybe myths and going into this two worlds? It's a new genre for you.
Yeah, what I'm interested in is the conspiracy, if you will, between the material world and the mystical world.
Okay.
And the Loric tradition capitalizes on the fusion of those two worlds. So 1,000 years ago, a folk song would contain a film, a parable, a poem, and a song. So it's all right, don't forget about the clock, whatever, it's having a bit of fun. Now, contained with all of that, you ended up with this conspiracy of creative components that no one has really captured since, because what happened is creative expression became disparate. You'd make a film, you'd sing a song, you'd make a poem, and all of these things became antithetical to the Loric tradition. The Loric tradition encapsulated all of these components, and my expression of King Arthur wanted to capture all of those components.
Okay, and what's the story behind not wanting Charlie Hunnam then? Because he convinced you for this role, but what do you have against the poor guy at the start?
Nothing.
But you said no, isn't it?
I said no because I thought he was someone else. And then when he turned up, I realised I made a mistake. But he's tremendously enthusiastic, Charlie. Yeah. And this leads us on to the next component, right, which is frequency. So when I met Charlie, the question was he on a similar frequency?
Yeah.
And the answer was yes. And if he's on a similar frequency, then he and I could correspond and understand each other and finish one another's sentences and understand. You start saying something and you understand what you meant. Now, I operate on a certain frequency, so the film corresponds to that frequency. Now, if you like my sort of stuff, then the chances are you'll like this sort of stuff because it's on the same frequency. I can't be on a different frequency because everyone has a frequency, and I can't pander to another frequency. So if you can correspond with it, then you'll like it. And if you can't correspond with it, then it's just noise.
Okay.
And Charlie's the same, right? So Charlie is a bloke that once you dial into one another, you go, oh, right, here we go. And that's really what happened with Charlie. Because he was so enthusiastic, because he liked my previous work, the chances are that he would be on a similar frequency. So guess what? He was.
Okay. And was David Beckham on the same frequency straight away? Because I saw on the red carpet last night he said that you threw him in the deep end when he came on the set.
By the way, I did throw him in the deep end.
Did you?
Yeah, but intentionally we didn't give him too many lines, because it is a deep end, and acting is a hard-earned craft. But I have been working with David some years now. That's all right, fuck it, we're having a lovely time. Let's keep going. So we sort of dialed in to one another's trust, if you will. Okay. And, he's very talented at what he does. And I wouldn't want to overexpose him because of all the requisite dangers of judging the low-hanging fruit. So he is on a similar frequency, though. Yeah.
Okay, I won't keep it. Lastly, then, Aladdin's coming up. Are you going?
Are we in a rush to go?
Well, I don't know who to be listening to. I suppose I should be listening to the director, really. But Aladdin, I love some of the characters in this, like Chinese George. Like, you do richify, if I can use that as a verb, movies in a brilliant way and genres. But first of all, it's Disney, it's Aladdin, so why that? And then, are you going to throw in some geeses like Chinese George? Like, are you going to richify properly the Aladdin story?
I don't know, because it's far too early. We're at the sort of vanguard of the creative choices of Aladdin.
I believe it's like a community and a family on set when you do movies.
We're back to frequency again, though, aren't we? I think, you just choose your surrounding team according to the frequency. And, if they're all on it, then everything seems to work harmoniously.
Okay, well, listen, Guy Richie, thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure. Should I sing another verse?
Go on, to sing us out, Guy.
No.
Go on, thanks a million.
FM 104. Dublin's hit music station.